Chapter 1. The air in the Obsidian Lounge was thick enough to choke on, a heavy mix of expensive bourbon, cigar smoke, and the suffocating, bitter tang of too many alphas in one room. Jamin kept his head down, his fingers trembling as he adjusted the collar of his cheap dress shirt. Beneath the fabric, right at the nape of his neck, he could feel the edges of his suppression patch peeling. It was the sweat. He'd been running all day, moving his 4-year-old son, Minho, to a safe apartment that felt more like a basement, and now he was here, picking up a final envelope of cash from a contact he didn't trust. Just 5 more minutes, he told himself. 5 minutes, then back to the shadows. But then the air changed. The heavy oak doors at the front of the lounge swung open, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. The chatter died down to a nervous hum. Jamin didn't have to look up to know who it was. The scent hit him first, cold pine and mountain winter, a smell so sharp and dominant it made his knees feel like water. Kang Doyan, the man who owned the city's concrete and its blood. Jamin tried to shrink into the corner of the bar, but his heart was hammering against his ribs so hard it was making him dizzy. And then the worst happened. The humidity of the lounge finally won. The adhesive on his patch gave way. It didn't fall off, but it lifted just enough. A tiny, silver thread of scent escaped. It wasn't much, just a faint, desperate whiff of rain-soaked honey, but in a room full of predators, it was a flare in the dark. Well, a voice rasped uncomfortably close. What do we have here? Jamin froze. It wasn't Doyan. It was Yoon Taesik, a man known for liking his Omegas broken and unregistered. Taesik was standing 3 feet away, his nostrils flaring, a predatory grin stretching across his face. You smell delicious, Taesik whispered, stepping into Jamin's personal space. And very, very illegal. No registration collar? No mate's mark. I'm just leaving, Jamin choked out, his voice cracking. He thought of Minho waiting in that dark apartment, clutching his stuffed wolf. If Jamin didn't come back, no one would find the boy. The thought sent a spike of pure, maternal terror through his veins. Taesik reached out, his thick fingers aiming for Jamin's throat. I don't think so. An unregistered Omega is public property. And I saw you first. Jamin lunged sideways, his boots sliding on the polished floor. He was trapped. Taesik's men were already closing the gap, blocking the exit. The room was watching, some with amusement, others with a sick kind of hunger. In this world, an Omega without a pack was just prey. Panic took over. It wasn't a choice, it was a drowning man reaching for a literal mountain. Jamin bolted toward the center of the room, toward the one man everyone else was afraid to touch. He didn't care about the consequences. He just saw a wall of black silk and felt that terrifyingly cold scent. Please, Jamin gasped. Before Doyan's guards could tackle him, Jamin's hand shot out. He grabbed Doyan's wrist, his small, trembling fingers locking onto the expensive watch and the warm, hard skin beneath. The entire lounge went silent. You didn't touch Kang Doyan. You didn't even breathe his air without permission. Doyan stopped mid-stride. He looked down at the hand on his wrist, then slowly, painfully slowly, his eyes traveled up to Jamin's face. Doyan's eyes weren't cruel, but they were empty. They looked like deep water where nothing lived. Let go, one of the guards hissed, reaching for a holster. Wait, Doyan said. His voice was a low, resonant vibration that Jamin felt in his own chest. Taesik stepped forward, looking annoyed but trying to keep his tone respectful. Mr. Kang, sorry for the disturbance. That thing is an unregistered stray. He was just leaving with me. Taesik reached out to grab Jamin's shoulder to drag him away. Jamin flinched, a small, broken sound escaping his throat. He squeezed Doyan's wrist tighter, his knuckles turning white. Don't let him, he whispered, tears finally blurring his vision. I have a son. Please. The word son seemed to do something. Doyan didn't move his arm. Instead, he turned his body, stepping subtly between Jamin and Taesik. It was a small movement, but the power behind it was like a tectonic plate shifting. He's with me, Doyan said. Taesik blinked, his face reddening. Excuse me? Mr. Kang, with all respect, I smelt him first. He's unbonded. He's nobody's. Doyen leaned in slightly. He didn't growl. He didn't have to. The air around him suddenly felt heavy, charged with a static electricity that made the hair on everyone's arms stand up. I don't repeat myself, Taysik, Doyen said, his voice dropping to a dangerous, silky whisper. He is under my protection. Which means if you touch him, you are touching me. Do you want to touch me? Taysik recoiled as if he'd been burned. He looked at Jaemin, who was still shaking, still clinging to Doyen's arm like a lifeline, and then at Doyen's cold, lethal expression. My apologies, Taysik muttered, bowing his head and backing away into the shadows of the bar. Jaemin's legs finally gave out. He began to sink to the floor, his breath coming in ragged, ugly sobs. He expected Doyen to shake him off now that the theatrics were over. He expected to be thrown out into the alley. But he didn't hit the floor. A large, warm hand caught him by the elbow, steadying him. Doyen didn't pull him into a hug. There was no alpha posturing. He just held him up. Stand up, Doyen said, not unkindly. The car is outside. Jaemin looked up, his face wet with tears. I have to go to my son. I can't leave him. Doyen looked at his right-hand man, a calm-looking beta named Minjae. Get the address. Fetch the child. Bring them both to the estate. Wait, Jaemin protested, his survival instinct screaming again. I didn't say, I'm not a toy. You can't just take us. Doyen looked at him then, really looked at him. He saw the frayed collar, the cheap shoes, and the absolute terror in the Omega's eyes. I am not taking you, Doyen said, his voice strangely flat. I am moving you. There is a difference. You can stay in that basement and wait for Taysik to find you, because he will, or you can come with me. Doyen began to walk, and for some reason, Jaemin's feet followed. Why? Jaemin asked as they hit the cool night air of the city. You don't even know me. Doyen stopped at the door of a black SUV. He looked at the spot on his wrist where Jaemin had grabbed him. The scent of rain and honey was all over him now. Because, Doyen said, opening the door. You didn't ask me to claim you. You asked me to help you. No one has ever asked me for that before. Chapter 2. The car ride was quiet, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the kind of silence that happens right before a bomb goes off. Jaemin sat pressed against the door of the SUV, his eyes glued to the window. He watched the neon lights of the city blur into streaks of watery blue and red. His mind was a mess. He kept thinking about Minho. Was he scared? Was he crying? If those men touched a single hair on his son's head, Jaemin didn't care how powerful Doyen was, he would find a way to kill everyone in this car. Doyen sat on the other side of the wide leather seat. He didn't look at Jaemin once. He was looking at a tablet, his face as still as a statue. He looked like a businessman, not a monster. But the scent of cold pine was still there, filling the small space, reminding Jaemin that he was trapped with the apex predator of the city. My son, Min whispered, his voice shaking. Where is he? My men are efficient, Doyen said without looking up. They will bring him to the estate. He won't be harmed. You don't know him, Jaemin snapped, a flash of parental heat overriding his fear. He's 4. He doesn't like strangers. He needs me. Doyen finally turned his head. His eyes were dark, unreadable. Then you should have thought of that before you went to a place like the Obsidian Lounge with a broken patch. Jaemin flinched like he'd been slapped. He looked away, hot shame crawling up his neck. He was right. It was his fault. He'd been desperate for the money, and now he'd put his son in the hands of the mafia. The SUV pulled through a set of massive iron gates and up a long, winding driveway lined with trees. At the end stood a house that looked more like a fortress, all glass, black stone, and sharp angles. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. When the car stopped, the door was opened by a man in a suit. Jaemin stepped out, his legs feeling like lead. Papa! The high-pitched scream broke through the silence of the driveway. Jaemin's head whipped around just in time to see a smaller black car pull up behind them. Minho scrambled out of the back seat, his face red from crying, clutching his raggedest stuffed wolf to his chest. Minho! Jaemin scrambled toward him, falling to his knees as the boy collided with him. He pulled his son into his arms, burying his face in the boy's neck. Minho smelled like baby shampoo and cheap crackers, the only things that made sense in this nightmare. I was scared, Minho sobbed, his little hands gripping Jaemin's shirt. The men, they had big guns, Papa. I know. I'm sorry, baby. I'm here now. Jaemin rocked him, ignoring the soldiers and the alphas standing around them. He felt a shadow fall over them. He looked up, shielding Minho instinctively. Doyen was standing a few feet away, watching them. The alpha's expression was weird, not angry, not hungry. He just looked curious. Like he was seeing something he didn't understand. Take them inside, Doyen told Minjae. Wait, Jaemin said, standing up while keeping Minho tucked against his hip. He looked at Doyen, his heart thudding. What happens now? You told them I'm with you. Are you going to mark me? In the world they lived in, that was the only way this worked. If a powerful alpha protected an omega, they claimed them. A bite on the neck. A permanent scar that told the world, this belongs to me. Touch it and die. Jaemin's stomach turned at the thought. He'd spent years hiding his neck, scrubbed raw to keep it clean. The other men in the driveway, Doyen's guards, all shifted. They were waiting for it. It was the logical next step. It would make the paperwork easier, the politics simpler. Doyen walked closer. He was so tall that Jaemin had to tilt his head back. The alpha reached out, and Jaemin closed his eyes, bracing for a hand to grab his throat, for the sharp sting of teeth. Instead, he felt the brush of a thumb against his cheek, wiping away a stray tear. It was a light, almost hesitant touch. No, Doyen said. The word rippled through the guards. Jaemin opened his eyes, stunned. No. I don't claim things that aren't freely given, Doyen said. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. You are guests here. Not prisoners. Not property. But the other packs. Jaemin stammered. Tasik, they won't stop if they don't see a mark. They'll think you're weak. They'll think I'm fair game. Doyen's eyes hardened, and for a second, the mountain winter scent became a blizzard. Let them think I am weak, Doyen whispered, leaning down so only Jaemin could hear. Let them try to come for what is under my roof. They will find out very quickly that I don't need a mark on your skin to prove I own this city. He pulled his hand back and looked at Minjae. Show them to the south wing. Get the boy something to eat. Real food, not crackers. As Doyen walked toward the house, his coat fluttering in the wind, Jaemin stood frozen on the gravel. He looked at his son, then at the retreating back of the most dangerous man in the country. Doyen hadn't bitten him. He hadn't touched him. But as Jaemin followed the beta into the house, he realized something even scarier. By refusing to mark him, Doyen hadn't just protected him. He had started a war. And Jaemin was right in the middle of it. Chapter 3. The south wing wasn't a room, it was a palace. Jaemin stood in the center of the bedroom, his feet sinking into a rug that probably cost more than his last 3 years of rent. Everything was white, gray, and cold. There were floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over a manicured garden, but to Jaemin, the glass just felt like a transparent wall of a cage. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the click of Tasik's tongue or felt the heavy, suffocating pressure of Alpha's closing in. He had spent the night sitting in a plush armchair by the door, watching Minho sleep on a bed that was far too big for a 4-year-old. A soft knock at the door made Jaemin jump, his hand instantly flying to the heavy lamp on the side table. It's just breakfast, a voice said. It was Minjae, the beta from the night before. The door opened, and Minjae walked in carrying a tray. He didn't look at Jaemin's defensive posture. He just set the tray down on a small table. There were scrambled eggs, fresh fruit, pancakes with actual maple syrup, and a glass of cold milk. The boss is in the study, Minjae said, his voice level. He said the boy should eat. There's a playroom down the hall if he gets restless. You're free to walk the grounds, but stay within the inner fence. The inner fence, Jaemin repeated, his voice raspy. So it is a prison. Minjae paused, his hand on the door handle. He looked at Jaemin with something that almost looked like pity. In this city, Jaemin, the fence is the only reason you're still breathing. Try to eat. After the beta left, Jaemin woke Minho. The boy ate like he hadn't seen food in a week, his little face covered in syrup. Seeing his son happy should have made Jaemin relax, but it only made the knot in his stomach tighter. He needed to see Doyen. He needed to know the price. Leaving Minho with a stack of picture books Minjae had brought, Jaemin stepped out into the hallway. The house was unnervingly quiet. It smelled of lemon wax and that underlying, sharp scent of Doyen, pine and frost. He found the study at the end of a long corridor. The door was heavy oak, slightly ajar. Jaemin took a breath, adjusted his collar, realizing he still had the half-peeled suppression patch stuck to his skin, and pushed it open. Doyen was sitting behind a desk made of dark, polished wood. He was wearing a simple black sweater, sleeves pushed up to his elbows, revealing thick corded forearms. He was reading a file, a pair of silver-rimmed glasses perched on the bridge of his nose. He looked human. It was a lie, Jaemin reminded himself. "You're awake?" Doyen said without looking up. "We need to talk about the rules," Jaemin said, staying near the door. He didn't want to get caught in the Alpha's scent again. It was too easy to get lost in it. Doyen set the file down and took off his glasses. He leaned back, his dark eyes tracing Jaemin's tired face. "Rules? What do you want from me?" Jaemin's voice grew sharper. "You brought us here. You're feeding us. You're protecting us from Taesik. No one does that for free. Do you want me in your bed? Do you want me to clean? Just tell me so I can decide if I should run now." Doyen's expression didn't change, but his scent shifted. The mountain winter smell grew a bit heavier, like a storm rolling in. "I don't need a maid," Doyen said calmly. "And I don't take Omegas who are terrified of me into my bed. It's bad for the ego." "Then why?" Jaemin stepped forward, his frustration bubbling over. "I'm an unregistered Omega with a kid that isn't yours. I'm a liability. Taesik is probably calling his allies right now, telling them you've gone soft for a stray. Why put your pack at risk for nothing?" Doyen stood up. He was a head taller than Jaemin, and as he walked around the desk, the power he radiated was almost physical. Jaemin wanted to back away, but he forced his heels to stay glued to the floor. Doyen stopped just outside of Jaemin's personal space. "You think everything is a transaction," Doyen said softly, "because that's how you've survived. But here is the only rule: you stay inside the gates. You don't try to contact anyone from your old life. In exchange, no one touches you. No one touches your son. And when you get bored?" Jaemin challenged. "When the charity wears off?" Doyen reached out. Jaemin flinched, but Doyen didn't grab him. He reached for the nape of Jaemin's neck. His fingers were warm as they brushed against the skin, peeling away the dirty, useless suppression patch. Jaemin's breath hitched. With the patch gone, his scent, that sweet, desperate honey, spilled into the room. Doyen didn't lung. He didn't growl. He just looked at the patch in his hand and then dropped it into a nearby trash can. "I don't get bored of my responsibilities," Doyen said, his eyes locking onto Jaemin's. "And you aren't charity. You're the first person in 10 years who looked at me and didn't see a mafia boss. You saw a man who could help. I'm just being that man." "I don't believe you," Jaemin whispered, though his heart was racing for a completely different reason now. "Good," Doyen said, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. "Belief is dangerous. Just stay alive. That's enough of a payment for now." Doyen walked past him, leaving Jaemin standing in the middle of the room, his neck feeling cold and exposed, and his heart feeling like it was starting to beat to a rhythm that wasn't his own. Chapter 4. 3 days in the estate felt like 3 years. Jaemin spent most of his time in the playroom, a sun-drenched space filled with toys that Minho didn't know how to play with. The boy was used to playing with empty cardboard boxes and a single, battered stuffed wolf. Seeing him surrounded by high-tech gadgets and plush animals felt wrong, like a bird kept in a gold-plated box. Jaemin was sitting on the floor, leaning against a soft velvet sofa, watching Minho arrange a line of wooden blocks. He was still waiting for the other shoe to drop. He kept checking his neck in the mirror, expecting to see a mark appearing by magic, or feeling for the sting of a collar he hadn't been forced to wear yet. "Nana is hungry," Minho murmured, holding up his stuffed wolf. The wolf was missing an eye and its fur was matted gray, but Minho loved it more than anything. Maybe Nana wants some of those pretend grapes? Jaemin suggested, pointing to a basket of plastic fruit. No, Minho shook his head, his little face serious. Nana wants to go outside. She likes the trees. Jaemin looked at the glass doors leading to the garden. He remembered what Minjae said about the inner fence. He hesitated, then stood up. He needed the air too. The scent of the house, that constant, underlying frost and pine, was starting to make his head swim. The garden was massive. It wasn't just grass, it was a labyrinth of stone paths, rose bushes and ancient-looking oaks. Minho ran ahead, his small legs pumping. Nana the wolf clutched tight in his fist. "Don't go too far, Minho," Jaemin called out, trailing behind. They turned a corner near a large koi pond, and Jaemin froze. Doyen was there. The alpha wasn't wearing his suit jacket today. He was in a white dress shirt with the collar open, standing by the edge of the water, throwing small handfuls of feed to the bright orange fish. He looked peaceful, which was a terrifying look on a man who could order a hit as easily as ordering a coffee. Minho didn't have his father's filters. He didn't see the apex alpha or the mafia lord. He just saw a tall man with fish food. Before Jaemin could grab him, Minho sprinted right up to Doyen. "What are those?" Minho asked, pointing at the pond. Jaemin's heart stopped. He hurried forward, his hands reaching out to snatch his son back. "Minho, come here. Don't bother Mr. Kong." Doyen didn't flinch. He didn't even look annoyed. He slowly crouched down, getting on one knee so he was at Minho's eye level. It was a position of total vulnerability for an alpha, exposing his throat and chest, but he did it without hesitation. "They are koi," Doyen said. His voice was lower than usual, softened at the edges. "They're lucky fish." Minho tilted his head, looking at Doyen's face. "Why do they have big mouths?" "Because they're always hungry. Just like you, I heard." Doyen held out his hand, offering a few pellets of fish food. "Want to try?" Jaemin stood 3 feet away, his breath trapped in his throat. He watched as his son, the boy who usually hid behind Jaemin's legs for hours when a stranger spoke to him, carefully took the food from Doyen's large, scarred palm. "Nana wants to see," Minho said, thrusting the raggedy wolf toward Doyen's face. Jaemin winced, waiting for Doyen to recoil from the dirty toy. Instead, Doyen looked the wolf right in its one remaining eye. He reached out a finger and gently tucked a piece of loose stuffing back into the toy's ear. "Nana looks like a brave warrior," Doyen said. "Does she protect you?" "She protects Papa," Minho said proudly. "When the monsters come at night." The silence that followed was heavy. Doyen's eyes flickered up to Jaemin. There was something in that look, not pity, but a deep, dark recognition. He knew exactly what kind of monsters Minho was talking about. "Well," Doyen said, standing up slowly. "Nana can take a break today. This house has its own warriors. She can just focus on the fish." He handed the rest of the bag of food to Minho and stepped back, giving the boy space. He turned toward Jaemin, his expression returning to that guarded, cool mask. "He's a good kid," Doyen said. "He's everything I have," Jaemin replied, his voice a bit stronger than before. "I told you. I'll do anything to keep him safe." "I know," Doyen said. He looked at Jaemin's neck, still bare, still unmasked. "You don't have to keep saying it. I can smell the fear on you every time I walk into a room. It's exhausting." "I can't help it," Jaemin snapped, his defense mechanisms flaring up. "You're a king and I'm a nobody. You have the power to take everything from me." Doyen stepped closer, just enough so that the cold winter scent wrapped around Jaemin like a blanket. It didn't feel like a threat this time. It felt like a shield. "I have the power to do a lot of things, Jaemin," Doyen whispered. "But watch your son. Does he look like he's afraid of me?" Jaemin looked over. Minho was giggling, throwing fish food into the water and talking to Nana. He looked more relaxed than he had in months. "Children see what adults are too scared to look at," Doyen said. "He sees a man. You see a monster. Maybe you should try looking again." Before Jimin could think of a comeback, Doyen was gone, walking back toward the house with his hands in his pockets. For the first time since the Obsidian Lounge, Jaemin didn't feel like he was drowning. He felt like he was floating, uncertain, dangerous, but for a split second, he felt like he could breathe. Chapter 5. The peace didn't last. It never does in a world built on blood. It happened on a Tuesday night. The house was quiet, the only sound the low hum of the air conditioning and the distant chirp of crickets from the garden. Jae-min was in the small kitchenette attached to the south wing, making a cup of tea he knew he wouldn't finish. He just needed something to do with his hands. Doyen appeared in the doorway. He wasn't wearing his glasses, and his hair was slightly messy, as if he'd been running his fingers through it for hours. "You're still up," Doyen said. He sounded tired. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes, but the kind that gets into your bones. "I can't sleep in silence," Jae-min admitted, leaning against the marble counter. "In my old place, there were always sirens, or the neighbors fighting, or the pipes banging. It's too quiet. It feels like the world ended and no one told me." Doyen walked in, pouring himself a glass of water. He stood close, not enough to be a threat, but enough that Jae-min could feel the heat radiating off his body. The alpha's scent was heavy tonight, like a forest right before a lightning strike. "The council called an emergency meeting," Doyen said abruptly. Jae-min's hand tightened around his mug. "The pack leaders?" "Yes. Taesik is making a lot of noise. He's telling everyone I've stolen public property, and that I'm breaking the ancient laws of the city by keeping an unregistered Omega without a mark." Doyen took a slow sip of water, his eyes fixed on the dark window. "They see my restraint as a sign that my alpha instincts are fading. They think I'm losing my grip." "Because you didn't bite me," Jimin whispered. "Because I didn't treat you like a trophy," Doyen corrected. "In their world, if you don't own it, you don't care about it. They think if they take you, I won't fight back because I haven't invested in you." Jaemin felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He looked toward the bedroom where Minho was sleeping. "Are they coming for us?" Before Doyen could answer, the silence of the night was shattered. It wasn't a gunshot. It was a low, heavy thump that vibrated through the floorboards, followed by the shrieking wail of the estate's perimeter alarm. Doyen moved faster than Jaemin's eyes could follow. In a heartbeat, the tired man was gone. The monster was back. He slammed his glass down and grabbed Jae-min by the shoulder, shoving him toward the bedroom. "Get the boy. Now." Doyen roared. Jae-min didn't ask questions. He bolted into the bedroom, scooping a half-asleep Minho out of the blankets. The boy let out a confused whimper, clutching Nana the wolf to his chest. "Papa? What's that noise?" "Shoo, baby, it's okay. We're just moving, okay?" Jaemin's heart was drumming a frantic rhythm against his ribs. They ran back into the kitchenette just as the floor-to-ceiling glass window in the living area exploded inward. A heavy black canister skidded across the expensive rug, hissing out a thick, gray smoke. "Tear gas," Doyen hissed. He grabbed a cloth from the counter, doused it in water, and pressed it against Jaemin's face. "Keep this over your nose and the boys. Move to the panic room. Min-jae is coming." Shadows moved through the smoke. Men in tactical gear, their faces hidden by gas masks, stepped through the shattered window. They weren't Doyen's men. They were faster, more aggressive. Taesik's mercenaries. One of them lunged toward Jae-min, reaching for the child. Jae-min let out a guttural, panicked sound, turning his back to shield Minho. He waited for the impact, for the hands to tear his son away. He heard a sickening crack instead. Doyen had intercepted the man midair. The alpha didn't have a weapon. He didn't need one. His hands were like iron as he snapped the attacker's wrist and threw him back through the broken glass like he was nothing more than a bag of trash. "Go!" Doyen screamed at Jae-min. But there were more of them. 3 more men swarmed Doyen, trying to pin him down. Doyen fought like a demon, his scent exploding into a suffocating, predatory blizzard that made Jae-min's lungs burn. Jae-min reached the hallway, but a hand grabbed his hair from behind, yanking his head back. He let out a cry of pain, but he didn't drop Minho. "Got the little rabbit?" a raspy voice laughed. It was one of the mercenaries. He pressed a cold knife blade against Jaemin's throat. "Stop moving, Omega, or I'll open you up right in front of the brat." Minho started screaming, a high, piercing sound that cut through the chaos. "Let him go!" Jaemin sobbed, his eyes searching the smoke for Doyen. From the center of the room, a sound emerged that Jaemin would never forget. It wasn't human. It was a deep, chest-rattling growl that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house. Doyen threw off the three men clinging to him as if they were children. He turned toward the man holding Jaemin. His eyes weren't dark anymore. They were glowing with a terrifying, primal amber light. Doyen didn't run. He blurred. One moment the mercenary was holding Jaemin. The next, Doyen's hand was buried in the man's chest, slamming him against the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. The knife dropped to the floor with a dull clink. Doyen stood over the fallen man, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his knuckles. He looked terrifying. He looked like death. Min-jae and the other guards finally burst into the room, guns drawn, clearing the remaining intruders. The immediate danger was over, but the air was still thick with the smell of gas and the overwhelming, violent scent of an alpha who had seen his mate, no, his guest, threatened. Doyen turned toward Jaemin. His face was splattered with blood, his shirt torn. He took a step forward, and instinctively, Jaemin flinched. Doyen stopped dead. The amber light in his eyes flickered and died. He looked at his own bloody hands, then at the terror in Jaemin's eyes. "I'm sorry," Doyen rasped, his voice sounding like it had been shredded. I didn't want you to see that." "They almost took him," Jimin whispered, his voice trembling as he clutched a sobbing Minho. "They almost took my son." "They won't get another chance," Doyen said. He looked at Min-jae, his voice turning back into ice. "Pack the cars. We're leaving. The estate isn't safe anymore." "Where are we going, sir?" Min-jae asked. Doyen looked at Jaemin, his expression filled with a strange, aching sadness. "To the cabin in the north. If they want a war because I didn't claim him, then I'll give them one. But I'm doing it on my terms." As they were ushered out into the cold night air, Jaemin looked back at the shattered windows of the palace. He realized Doyen was right. The fence was gone. The sanctuary was a memory. The only thing left between Jaemin and the monsters was the man with blood on his hands. Chapter 6. The cabin was hidden deep in a valley where the trees grew so thick they choked out the sun. It was small, built of dark, heavy logs and smelling of wood smoke and old wool. Outside, a light snow had begun to fall, dusting the black SUV like powdered sugar. Minho had finally cried himself to sleep in a small loft upstairs, still clutching Nana the wolf. Jaemin sat by the fireplace in the main room, watching the orange flames lick at a pile of cedar logs. His body felt heavy, like his skin was made of lead. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Doyen's hands covered in blood. He saw the amber light in the alpha's eyes. He heard the heavy thud of boots on the porch. The door opened, letting in a swirl of freezing air and the sharp, biting scent of pine and winter. Doyen stepped inside. He had changed into a thick flannel shirt and dark jeans. He looked less like a king and more like a ghost. He didn't look at Jaemin. He went straight to the small kitchen area and started a pot of coffee. "He's asleep," Jaemin said, his voice barely a whisper. "Good," Doyen replied. His voice was raspy, like he'd been screaming even though he hadn't. Jaemin stood up. He felt a desperate, clawing need to move. "This is a mistake. We shouldn't be here." Doyen paused, his hand on the coffee pot. "It's the safest place in the country, Jaemin. My own men don't even have the coordinates." "I'm not talking about safety," Jaemin snapped, his voice rising. "I'm talking about you. Taesik is going to tear your city apart. The council will replace you. You're losing your empire, your money, your power, all for an Omega you haven't even marked. But just let us go. We can change our names. We can disappear into the north. If we're gone, the war stops." Doyen finally turned around. The firelight cast long, flickering shadows across his face, making the scar on his cheek look deeper. "Is that what you want? To keep running? To spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder every time a car slows down near your son? It's better than being the reason you die." Jaemin shouted. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jaemin realized he was shaking. He hated it. He hated how much he cared. He'd spent years making sure he never cared about anyone but Minho, and now this giant, terrifying man had crashed into his life and ruined everything. I'm going, Jaemin said, his resolve hardening. He walked toward the door, reaching for his coat. I'll take Minho and we'll leave while it's dark. You can go back to your city and tell them we escaped. Tell them you're the boss again. He grabbed the door handle, but a large hand slammed against the wood above his head, pinning it shut. Jaemin didn't turn around. He could feel Doyen right behind him. The alpha wasn't touching him, but the heat from his body was like a furnace. The scent of mountain winter was overwhelming, but it wasn't cold anymore. It was warm. It was protective. Move, Jimin commanded, though his voice lacked any real bite. No, Doyen whispered. He leaned down, his breath ghosting over the sensitive skin of Jaemin's bare neck. Jaemin's knees trembled. You think I'm doing this out of duty? You think I'm some knight in shining armor playing a game of hero? Then why? Jaemin turned around, his chest bumping into Doyen's. He had to look way up to meet the alpha's eyes. Why lose everything for us? Doyen's hand moved from the door. He didn't grab Jaemin's throat. He didn't try to claim him. He just rested his palm against the side of Jaemin's face, his thumb stroking the line of his jaw. The touch was so gentle it hurt. Because for 15 years, I've been a king of nothing, Doyen said, his eyes searching Jaemin's. I had the money. I had the fear. But I didn't have a reason to wake up in the morning other than to make sure no one stabbed me in the back. My life was just a series of rooms and meetings and blood. Doyen took a ragged breath. And then you grabbed my wrist in that lounge. You were terrified, your scent was screaming, and you looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that could save you. In that second, the world finally had a color. It wasn't just gray anymore. Jaemin's breath hitched. Doyen, I'm not losing my empire for an Omega, Doyen whispered, leaning closer until their foreheads touched. I'm letting it burn so I can finally be a man. I don't want to own you, Jaemin. I don't want to mark you like a piece of cattle just to prove a point to a bunch of cowards. I just want to be the person who makes sure you never have to run again. Jaemin felt a tear escape and roll down his cheek. He reached up, his fingers trembling as he touched the collar of Doyen's shirt. They'll kill you. You know that, right? They won't stop until they find us. Then let them come, Doyen said, a dark, determined smile touching his lips. I'd rather die standing next to you than live another day on a throne that doesn't mean anything. Jaemin didn't run. He didn't pull away. He closed the small gap between them and pressed his face into the crook of Doyen's neck. He inhaled deeply, pine, winter, and the smell of a man who was finally choosing his own path. For the first time in his life, Jaemin didn't feel like prey. He felt like he was home. Don't go, Jaemin whispered into the alpha's skin. I'm not going anywhere, Doyen replied, wrapping his arms around Jaemin and holding him so tight it felt like they were the only two people left in the world. Chapter 7. The morning sun didn't explode over the valley. It seeped in slowly, turning the white snow outside the cabin into a blinding, shimmering sheet of silver. Jaemin woke up to the sound of wood popping in the fireplace. For a second, he panicked, his hand instinctively reaching out for Minho. But then he felt the weight of the thick wool blanket and the steady, rhythmic breathing of the man sitting in the chair by the bed. Doyen hadn't slept. He was still in the flannel shirt, his eyes fixed on the door, a heavy handgun resting on the side table. But when he saw Jaemin move, the hard line of his shoulders softened. The sun is up, Doyen said. His voice was thick with exhaustion, but it was steady. Min-jae called. It's over. Jaemin sat up, rubbing his eyes. Over? How? Taesik tried to move on the docks last night. He thought I was hiding there. He walked right into a trap, Min-jae said. Doyen looked out the window. The council doesn't like losers, Jaemin. When Taesik failed to find me, and lost half his men in the process, they decided he was a liability. He's no longer a problem. Min should have felt relief, but all he felt was a strange, hollow ache. And the city? Your empire? Doyen finally looked at him. There was no pride in his expression. I gave it to Min-jae. Most of it's thing. I kept enough to make sure we never have to worry about money again, but the title, the throne, I'm done with it. I'm a ghost now. Just like you. Jaemin got out of bed, his bare feet hitting the cold wooden floor. He walked over to Doyen, standing between the alpha's knees. He reached out, his fingers tracing the dark circles under Doyen's eyes. You really did it, Jaemin whispered. You threw it all away. I didn't throw it away, Doyen said, grabbing Jaemin's waist and pulling him close. I traded it for something better. A small thumping sound came from the loft stairs. Minho scrambled down, rubbing his messy hair, still dragging Nana the wolf behind him. He stopped when he saw them, his eyes wide. Is the monster gone? Minho asked, his voice small. Doyen let go of Jaemin's waist and held out an arm. Minho didn't hesitate. He ran forward and tucked himself into Doyen's side, leaning against the alpha's strong leg. The monster is gone, kiddo, Doyen said, ruffling the boy's hair. He won't be coming back. Can we go to the park now? Minho asked hopefully. The one with the big slide? Doyen looked at Jaemin, a question in his eyes. Maybe not today, Jaemin said, a small smile finally breaking through. But soon. A different park. In a different city. The rest of the morning was a blur of packing small bags and cleaning up the cabin. There was an ease to it that Jaemin hadn't felt in years. They weren't an alpha and an omega. They were just three people trying to figure out how to be a family. As they stood on the porch, ready to head to the car, Jaemin stopped. He looked at Doyen, who was loading the last of their things. Doyen, Jaemin said. Doyen stopped and turned. The wind caught his hair, and for a moment he looked younger. You still haven't marked me, Jaemin said, his voice quiet. And you aren't going to, are you? Doyen walked back up the porch steps. He stood in front of Jaemin, the scent of pine and winter now mixed with the smell of the morning coffee and the wood smoke. It was a scent that meant safety. Do you want me to? Doyen asked. Jaemin thought about it. He thought about the laws, the biology, the way the world expected them to work. Then he thought about the way Doyen had held him the night before, without a single tooth touching his skin. No, Jaemin said, his voice firm. I don't need a scar to know who I belong with. Doyen smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. He leaned down and pressed a long, slow kiss to Jaemin's forehead, right above the bridge of his nose. It wasn't a claim. It wasn't a brand. It was a promise. Then we'll do it our way, Doyen whispered. No marks. No cages. Just us. They walked down the steps together. Minho was already in the back seat, buckled in and showing Nana the wolf the view of the snowy trees. As the SUV pulled away from the cabin, heading toward a highway that led to 100 different possibilities, Jaemin reached over the center console. He found Doyen's hand and interlaced their fingers. The road ahead was long, and the world was still a dangerous place. But for the first time in his life, Jaemin wasn't looking in the rearview mirror. He was looking at the horizon. And he wasn't alone. The end. Jaemin and Doyen finally found a sanctuary that didn't feel like a cage, but their journey is just one of many. If you believe that love should be a choice and not a claim, then you belong here with us. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. Don't let the next story start without you. Thank you for staying until the very end. This story was about more than just alphas and omegas. It was about the courage to be vulnerable. I have to know, do you think Doyen made the right choice by giving up his empire, or should he have stayed to change the system from the inside? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. If you aren't ready to leave this world yet, click the video on your screen right now to dive into our next Mafia BL. Until next time, stay safe in the shadows.